Hello, folks. Welcome back. Today is our introduction to SPSS. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how I open this. On this computer, you can't see my mouse, so I'm just going to describe what I'm doing. I'm going to go down to the little Windows icon here in the bottom corner and click on it. And then I click on All Apps. I'm going to slide down to IBM because that's the folder that has SPSS in it. Okay, and IBM SPSS Statistics 25 is the first item on the list here. There's also, I want you to make note that there's also a license authorization wizard, okay, that you might need to use when you after you first install IBM. Okay, but I've already authorized my license, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on IBM SPSS Statistics 25. And it's loading in, and the first thing I see is this, um, you know, opening splash screen. And then there's another splash screen that's welcome to IBM SPSS Statistics. And it gives you the option of starting a new data set or pulling from a recent file. You probably won't have a recent file yet. um, I'm just going to close that for the moment. No, you know what? Actually, let me pull this one. Nah, I'll show you how I do it. Let me close that for now and open up our PowerPoint. I want to make this bigger since we're having a bigger screen today. Might as well make the PowerPoint bigger. Okay, so a lot of the material for this lesson, as well as the next few lessons, are going to come from, oh, even bigger, there we go, are going to come from, is the materials are going to come from this book, which was a recommended book in your syllabus. It's Discovering Statistics Using IBM SPS Statistics, and it's by Andy Field, fifth edition. It's a, and I think you'll find a lot of the information helpful that's in that book. Okay, so we're learning about the IBM SPS Statistics environment. So there's that screen that first popped up, the second splash screen. Um, and then there's the data editor. And so let me show you. The data editor has um, the names of the variables across the top and the actual data that accompanies those variables in columns. And then just the each row representing a participant as we've discussed. And then there's just a number for each row. And the highlighted cell is the cell that's currently active. And you can see the value of what's in that highlighted cell. Okay. And so there's data view and variable view. Let me show you that. Okay. So let's say that I were a student in SPSS in EDUC 7021. I would get my data set from our D2L uh, classroom. So let me go to the D2L classroom. And there's our classroom. Here's our classroom content. And this is the week of 2-4. And let's get Let me grab the invisibility IM data set. You can tell it's a data set. It's not named data set, but it is a data set. It says .sav file, and let me just highlight this since you can't see my mouse. It says .sa. It's an SAV file, which the SAV extension is what SPSS uses. So if it's .sav, you know that it's an SPSS data file. Okay, and so I go here and actions. I want to download this. Did it do it? Yes, it did it. Let's show this in the folder. For me, it goes to my download folder. I almost always then move it onto the desktop because I forget what's in my download folder. Here, let me stick it over there. Okay, if you're really organized, then you have a folder called EDUC 7021, and that's where you can put files for this class. Okay, so I put it on my desktop. So let me, I can, I can get to it two ways. One thing I can do is I could double click and it'll open up, but I've already opened up SPSS. So I could go to File, Open, Data, and it's on my desktop. So where? Desktop. And there it is, Invisibility IM, which stands for Independent Measure. I can hit Open. Okay. And here I am in the data editor. It says data editor at the top. It says data view at the bottom. And you see there are two, cloak and mischief are the names of the variables. And each row stands for a participant. Okay, so that's the data view. What's next on our PowerPoint? I think of this as like this is the filing cabinet, okay? So back in the day, you when you did observations, you'd be writing on paper, right? And when people filled out surveys, they would be writing on paper, right? And then the researcher collects all that paper, puts it in a file, puts it in the filing cabinet. Okay, so each of these rows are like a slip of paper about one participant. Okay, and this is the kind of thing that I think of as the raw data, the data file. Okay, all right. Now, what's next? Okay, the variable view is essentially SPSS's code book. So if I go to the variable view, I can click right down here at the bottom to click over to variable view, or I wonder if I could do it with view. View, will this do it? View variables? Yes, I can click go to view and go to view variables. So we see that cloak is a numeric type variable. Um, it's the width, it refers to how many spaces it's allocated the in the database. The label is the kind of the English translation of the variable name. So variable names tend to be shorter and they can't have spaces, right? So cloak stands for cloak of invisibility, and we put a label, just it makes our graphs much nicer and our output much easier to read. Um, the cloak of invisibility can take on two values, which means it's categorical or continuous. If you said categorical, you're right. And it can take on two values, so that's called. If you said binomial, you're right. Binomial variable or dummy variable or dichotomous variable. Okay, there are none missing is what SPSS has determined. And then there's alignment. It says nominal, which it is, right? And then you don't have to worry about role. Okay, the second variable, we see the variable name. It's also numeric. The label, what it is in English, is mischievous acts. There are no values listed, so that means it's probably continuous. And sure enough, under measure, we see this little ruler, and that's how SPSS shows a continuous variable. Because, measuring something like height, that's a continuous scale or a interval scale or ratio scale, something that is continuous. And nominal, it looks like there are little buckets, right? Okay, so that's the variable view. What's next? Okay, and then on the slides it shows the various variable types. We will only use numeric and string. But there is information on how you could create strings and dates. So for example, let's say that I wanted, and these were kids, right? I wanted to have the first name of each kid. First name. That would be type string. And I can decide how long, many characters, just in case there's a kid whose name is longer than 8 characters, I might put 12. Okay. And label is student first name, let's say. And that doesn't really matter, right? Because it's a string. Okay. And so if now we go back to the data view, you see there's another column created. And I can just make up names for the kids. And so on, right? You notice that I can enter in data directly into the data view, the data editor. I can also change something, right? So let's say I realized that that entry was actually wrong. I could change it. Okay, but so it's possible to mess up your data by typing something into these incorrectly. Um, but hopefully none of you will make that mistake. Okay, what's next? Oh yeah, creating and coding a variable. So I just um, demonstrated that, how you do that. So I created a string variable. Let's say I wanted to create a, say I wanted to create another numeric variable. Numeric is the default. Um, don't want great. Let's do gender. Student gender is what I'm going to label it as. Now I click on values for categorical variables. You want to tell SPSS what the values are. Let's say in our data set 0 stands for female, add. And 1 stands for male, add. Okay. Measure is nominal. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to the data view and And notice it put dots. It might be hard to see over the video, but it's put in little dots showing that the data is missing. And Sean is a boy. Julia is a girl. Nia is a girl. Dejan is a boy. Okay, see? Easy peasy, right? Very similar to Excel. Okay. Um, I always like to save periodically as I'm going through because don't you hate it when like something happens and you've lost all the data you entered? Ah! And all the work you did. Ah! So, yes, definitely save periodically. Okay, what's next? The viewer window. Okay, so I'm down at the bottom, and I have two choices on what I can click on. There's the data view, and then there's this one with a blue plus sign, and that's the viewer window. I can click on that. That's one way to get to it. Another way is probably view. Does it give me a way to get there? Another way to get there? Menu editor. No, 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 no. Oh, I don't see another way. Window. Yes. There we go. Window. Go to designated viewer window. Okay. At the top it says IBM SPSS Statistics Viewer. And let's say I wanted to analyze something. Let's say I wanted descriptive statistics. Let's say I wanted frequencies. Let's see. For cloak of invisibility, let's say I wanted that variable. I'm going to move that. And this is continuous. I don't want frequencies on that. Display frequency tables. Oh, give me a chart too. I'm gonna go for a pie chart. I know each kid had. We can see what proportion of the kids had each, and pie charts I like percentages. And here is the output window. So back in the old days, um, you would program you would write the commands for your statistics program, right? Way back in the old days, and it would spit out a printout, right? So this is why this is the output viewer. This is the printout viewer. Um, yeah, from before computers had the capacity to show you on the screen. Okay, so we see that there all 24 students had data in this for this variable because none were missing, and that there were 12 students who had no cloak and 12 students who had a cloak. And so you see no cloak and cloak. Half had no cloak, half had a cloak. So there's my pie chart. Um, what about our continuous variable? Frequencies. Again, I don't want that anymore. I'm going to move it back by clicking the arrow. You can also hold and slide. Want mischievous acts. Ooh, it can give me the mean. And can I give me the mean and the standard deviation, central tendency and dispersion. Continue. Charts. I want a histogram. The histograms are the best for showing frequencies. Okay. I'm not sure what this frequency table is. Let's see. Okay, so it shows us under statistics the number valid, the number missing. Whoops. And it says double click to activate because you can do things with it if you double click it, but we're not going to worry about that now. And then it lists, oh, okay, this was the frequency table it's talking about. It lists each possible number and the frequency of each, as well as the percent of acts, the percent of kids who had that frequency of mischievous acts, and then a cumulative percent. And then it gives a histogram showing the frequency. Is pop quiz, is the frequency of mischievous acts normally distributed? If you said yes, I would agree with you. It's basically mound shaped. It's a little peaky or a little kurtotic, but it's basically mound shaped. It's basically symmetrical. We don't have a long trail off to either side. Okay. Alrighty. I think that's about it. Let's see. Oh, syntax window. We're not really going to worry about that. It's how the sausage is made, is what I wrote on this slide. Yeah, and at this level, we don't need to worry about it so much, okay? But those are the commands that are happening behind the scenes, that SPSS is kind of smoothing out for us. All right. I hope this has been a helpful introduction. See you next time.